it starts out with a rich and a poor brother, and the poor brother seems to be really bad at soldiering, and he pulls off his red coat, which I feel like is a very symbolic image. I mean, the red coats. I guess this was shortly after the American Revolution, and the British were the redcoats, but I think they
Hmm.
had hired a lot of German mercenaries, if I remember correctly. So
Mm,
we might be talking about that kind of a soldier.
mm,
Um, but he puts off war, right? The
mm,
poor brother is deciding he's no longer going to go to war, whatever that means, and
mm,
he's going to become a gardener instead. So
mm.
I don't know, like maybe if you have anything to say about that, or work in like the Cain and Abel thing, because the gardener definitely, there's Cain and Abel in there too. So
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly what not being the soldier anymore is, but it's at least changing his life completely. A soldier is also someone who goes around, who is not tied to the land so much, is more tied to like a way and discipline, and therefore a larger, somewhat abstract entity, the state, or yeah, it's not like a militia member or not like a tribal warrior or something. They're kind of an official kind of thing. And then he becomes a gardener. He's tied to the land, this particular piece of land, and he's going to try to, and they nourish rather than use violence. So it's almost like
mm.
he becomes the opposite. And one thing I noticed is that at the beginning of the story, we have these two brothers who are both soldiers. So they're the same in some ways, and yet they're the opposite. One is rich, one is poor. This is this seems important. I don't know exactly what this means, but I mean, one thing it could simply mean is that, like in many families, the firstborn son would maybe inherit everything or something, or there were certain things like in the red and the black where, like, if a family had two or three sons, like one would go off into the priesthood, that's the black, one would be a soldier, that's red, and one would inherit the land. I think that was it. Like the first one inherits the property, the second one becomes either a soldier, or priest, probably soldier. Third one, if they have a third one, becomes a priest, something like that. But
Mhm,
either
mhm.
way, yeah. And kind of like Cain and Abel, it's about making your way in the world and how you do it, and also the sibling rivalry that can come up because of that. And like Cain and Abel, I believe the brother who does not emphasize the sibling rivalry is the one who ends up doing well. Although, of course, Abel is killed, so that's not good. But
Yeah.
he's not
Ends kind of
exactly
poorly.
successful. But at least, but compared to Cain, he's successful, right? He does not roam the earth with a mark of sin and is just lives a living hell.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, Abel is favored. His sacrifice is favored by God, so he
yeah,
definitely
that's what.
wins some points there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, that's the reason why, right? It's trying to show it's not about the birth order, not about something inherent, but about what you end up doing, right? And sacrificing, and sacrificing is different than like instrumental work or something, right? You're not doing it for the reason exactly of, okay, I'm going to sacrifice, I'm going to get this back from God. So I do X units of sacrifice, I get X units of reward. Okay, that's why I'm doing it. Why
Hmm.
why else
Hmm.
would I do it? You know. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that the soldiers, the brothers, like one of them is initially one of them, like they're both soldiers, so they're both like they make their money through war. They make their money through combat, regardless of if it's for the state or if it's mercenary work or if it's any kind of like if you're a rich soldier, you're really good at like killing people because you were
Right.
told to.
Right.
And if you're a poor soldier, chances are that you're not very good at it.
Mm.
Um, so that's interesting in and of itself. And there's sort of a like you see there's something you said, anyway, there's something about the rich brother, like he's engaging with the world. He's whether it's soldiering and killing, or if it's like money and counting and commerce, like there's sort of a outward kind of a thing. And the other
Mm,
brother that's less successful, he, like you said, he turns to the ground. He starts to cultivate. He starts to kind of, um, if you see it sort of the same way we were talking about with the Turnip Princess, if you see it as like, um, all the elements of the story are like a dream, like they're all part of the same person, so to
mm,
speak. Like the one that turns to the earth and starts to cultivate the earth and starts to plant
mm.
and grow, as opposed to being out in the world trying to take and kill and conquer. There's definitely a like a dichotomy there. Um, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then the one who does so ends up growing this giant turnip that he doesn't have any use for. And like, I don't know, I want to go with like, I guess I'm cautious of going with the same interpretation from the previous turnip story. But if you're developing these gifts or this self or this sense of being, like his gets really big. Like his tending to himself, his tending to like grow his soil, kind of grow from what's native to him instead of trying to go out in the world and take things. He ends up with this really big turnip, this really like, I don't know, enlightened sense of self, or this like good grounded in the earth being, like, and it's bigger than anything, and it's what it's miraculous or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a blessing or a curse, he can't tell, but he doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that to me speaks to like, if you work to develop spiritually, it can be hard to figure out how to bring that to a marketplace, you know
Oh, right. Yeah.
you know
And this is kind of
um,
relevant to our situation too.
yeah, exactly, the creative growth, the creative expression, tilling the earth, growing the things inside of us. And then we might grow something big, but then how do we get it out to the people? How do we, because the people, if you're good at marketing, you can market crap and maybe people will buy it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too defeatist about it. But we've got this soldier brother who's super rich at being a soldier, and this other brother who's not very good at doing that, but he manages to make this giant turnip. You know. Um, so yeah, and then the Cain and Abel thing I thought was really interesting because, it's almost like it turns it on its head, because in the Bible story, uh, Abel was a shepherd and Cain was the farmer. And so in that one you have, I mean, I don't know if this is just a coincidence, or just the symbols not quite mapping, but
Mm,
it's still fun to play with. Like
mm,
the farmer's sacrifice to the Lord in the Bible is not as satisfying as the shepherd's sacrifice of the livestock, the
mm,
blood sacrifice.
mm,
God likes blood more than God likes vegetables. But here
mm.
you have the reverse, right? You've got the soldier that does the killing is successful in the world. He has the finances, but when he goes to the king, he's not very successful.
Yeah.
Whereas the guy who has put off the red coat, red blood, killing, death, he's put all that off to just be brown in the earth and grow and do all that thing. He ends up with this thing that he's not sure what to do with, and give it to the king as a mark of respect.